You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back. I'm joined now by John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to see you, and in person, like in studio.
Anytime you want me to come in.
I will do it.
People have seen enough in our podcasts of my office.
Yeah.
You know,
dogs.
with the cracked plaster and the
everything.
dogs asleep on the couch behind me. Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
All right, the legislative session has finished, not officially adjourned yet, but recessed. Shouldn't be any more business other than perhaps taking up a couple of veto overrides. Assess this legislative session for, let's start first, the people of Arkansas.
The people of Arkansas, the collective electorate of Arkansas, has spoken time and again in recent years for harsh hyper-conservatism, and they continue to get it. People who complain about this, about the legislature, are complaining about themselves or their fellow citizens. These people are elected to represent a point of view that they're enacting. So the people were well served. Their libraries will now have to put in some sort of sequestered place, I assume, any books that the legislators find inappropriate for youth. And there will be some transgender bathroom concerns addressed. And a general conservative view is what we're getting. I did think this session was more workmanlike and a little less hyper right-wing than the recent ones, but that may be only because I'm accustomed to it in Arkansas and in comparison to, relative to, the new dictatorship by one caricatured signature of one man in Washington. Here we're still doing democracy, we're passing these bills. Sarah Sanders is in charge of libraries now because the legislature passed a bill, not by just taking out a piece of paper and signing an order. So for all those reasons, this one jarred me less than others. And maybe I'm being normalized, or they're being normalized in my view.
I like that description. It jarred you less than other sessions there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the big stuff that they did in this legislative session. Let's begin with maternal health reforms. I think there was bipartisan support for this. Not that it was needed, but that it was there. There seems to be an interest in improving things for women giving childbirth there. That was a good one. You put that up.
You'll find that most of the stuff that I like is the bipartisan stuff. I'm not democratic or liberal so much in my leanings now in the Trump era as I am in working together to do things that everybody agrees on, like cell phone ban or in school, like
free breakfast.
Free breakfast in school, and on maternal health, these policies of concern to the health and well-being and services to pregnant women are outstanding. And it was a good package of bills, and we should all take pride in them. We're still a state where the governor keeps us as one or two states that refuses to expand Medicare coverage for post-birth for a year. Medicaid, I mean. And I guess that's because she's conceptually opposed to Medicaid, wants to rein it in as she can because that's part of her friend the president's initiative, and Musk and others. Maybe that's what it is. Nonetheless, I'll not dwell on that. I will dwell on the fact that they did a good package of local self-designed legislation for a very worthy, important cause that enhances something that needs enhancing in Arkansas, which is the quality of our health care, particularly in rural areas, not just in maternal health care, but generally. But good. I mean, Sarah Sanders, every once in a while, will go along with something that I simply find it impossible to find fault with, and that's one.
Let's talk about one of the conservative movements that I saw play out in this legislative session that I think, I just want to get your perspective on this. We ended racial quotas on boards and commissions in this legislative session. We took out diversity offices in universities, and there was just a lot of work to remove anything that dealt with racial diversity and gender diversity in some of these things. What is the impetus for this whole movement? Why is this acceptable now? I thought that we lived in an age where we respected the broader context. We're a multicultural society now, yet here in Arkansas, there's this conservative pushback on open-mindedness to some extent.
Roby, it's not just Arkansas. We're now part of the national mainstream. And the electorate spoke in the recent presidential election, not by the landslide that Mr. Trump believes, but the nation is in a period of backlash. These noble concepts have been overdone to the point of ridiculousness. That's what a majority of the people seems to think. It's certainly what the base of the Republican Party thinks. And I actually wrote a column saying affirmative action, well, it was vital in the 70s, thank goodness, but if it's going to do but after 40 years, if it's going to do a lot more good, maybe there's another way to do it, than the affirmative action policies. DEI, it's not just here. I mean, Trump is leaning on Ivy League schools to rein in their diversity and equity and inclusion policies, and except for Harvard, most of them have made some efforts to do that, and I think Harvard was willing to try to do something in that regard, even when they decided to defy the president's wishes otherwise.
Are you saying that the hand has kind of been overplayed
yes,
on that?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you. I was taking too much time.
That's fine.
The hand has been overplayed, and there is a price to pay when you overplay the hand. It may not actually have been overplayed. It is perceived to have been overplayed, and the people rule.
And perception is reality.
That's what they say, and I believe that's probably true.
Let's talk about another thing that we saw a lot of activity on in the legislative session was changes to the ballot petition process. A lot of folks that believe in citizen-led initiatives will find the hurdles much higher to clear to get things done. You and I have talked about this in the past in some of our conversations when this was playing out. Do you think that we really may see just a lack of ballot initiatives as a result of this?
I fear that and think that's so. And I think, of course, that's what the controlling Republican legislature intends. They want to make it under the guise of let's be transparent and accountable to the people. They want to set up a process that's like the 400-meter intermediate hurdles, which most people can't run, and rather than obliging citizen initiative on the underlying principle that this all goes to the ballot and it's not going to become law unless most of the people want it, they want to preempt it by starting with Tim Griffin's hyper editing and delays, and then now if you're going to approach somebody as a canvasser, you've got to tell them they may go to jail if they say anything that's wrong. They're going to have to read this thing in front of you. You don't want me to repeat my line about you have to go do a urine, provide a urine sample.
You can skip that.
Yeah, I can skip that because that was hyperbole. But it's a metaphor to make the point. And I think it's going to. I mean, it's hard now.
Yeah.
It's always been hard. It's a heroic accomplishment for the abortion people to get that proposal on the ballot, or get their signatures. It's in the Constitution that the citizens make the laws, and basically the legislative branch, the General Assembly, exists by leave of the people.
Yeah.
It's sort of the way it's phrased. So it's. I believe the people who go to the trouble to try to get something on the ballot ought to be obliged to the extent possible, and you ought to trust that the voters will make a decision in the fall. These people don't think that, and they've made it, I think, close to impossible to get these things on.
While the governor will have many accomplishments and the Republican majority will have many accomplishments to talk about in terms of achievements from this legislative session, one of the big setbacks for the governor was this prison funding appropriation bill. $750 million for the Franklin County State Prison. Did not succeed, couldn't get a 3/4 vote in the Senate, so after about 5 attempts it set put. Well, how do you see that playing out going forward? Does she eventually get it? Next fiscal session, a special session, through some other means? I don't think it kills the prison in Franklin County.
No, I don't either. In fact, the day after it or a couple of days after they gave up on passing it because they couldn't move these last few votes in the Senate, the State Correction Board hired an architect for it. You know, I mean, and I think the plan is, we got $75 million that Asa left us for prison that he couldn't figure out how to use or didn't get used. We get started on this, and we can spend so much money on it, we can get so much done on it, that it'll almost be a fait accompli, and they'll have to pass this in order to not leave a white elephant out here with a big hole or leveling of some ground out here in Franklin County. I think that's what they're thinking, and that's what most of the insiders, that's the assurance they express. But I'm thinking these 3 or 4 Republican senators who denied it did so for not just for political reasons back home, not all of them, but because they see the cost, the placement, the issue of water, the issue of hiring, the process that was used, which was to basically secretly buy it and announce on the radio, hey, we're bringing a prison to you without your input. There may be some basic fundamental opposition, which leads me first to say, well, you got to give them something, you got to pare it back a little bit. How do you pare it back? You know, would you vote for it if it was 2,000, 2,500
right. Build
prisoners?
it in phases.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I also think, I see in the outside realm of possibility that this thing couldn't get done. I do see that.
Yeah.
Because I believe a couple of these votes that are needed, I mean, it's going to be, if it passes, it's going to be 28-7 or 27-8.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing to spare.
Skin of the teeth.
Right. So I'm interested in what you think, I'm interested in what others think on whether this is potentially a more major development than just a delay. And that, to me, we're going to have to see what these few senators do. They're in charge.
Yeah.
So
I agree, and it'll be a while before we see what they do, because they don't have to anymore.
Right.
So.
Right. I think they're thinking about a special session or the fiscal session, and in the meantime, proceed full speed ahead. Maybe, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
This is big. When a governor makes a singular power play like that and can't get it out of her party in the legislature, albeit with a ridiculously unfair 3/4 requirement. It was the top line story of the session.
I agree with you
All
on
right.
that. All right, he's John Brummett. He's columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always good to be with you.
My great pleasure.
All right, thank you so much.